start. Okay, hi everybody. I'm the Queen of Space. I'm from Cosplay. This is the rest of my team: Darian Spider, the Goblin Queen, and
Captain Kraken.
Captain Kraken! Appropriate, my friend.
Yes.
Oh yeah, sure, if you can.
At least one.
So this is, back in the day, a retrospective look at anime conventions through the last 20 years. I have been cosplaying since 1998. I was 12 years old then. You can do that. I did my very first costume when I was 5th grade, so 9. I was Sailor Jupiter for Halloween. I don't really count that, but I went to my first con when I was 7. I've been doing this a really long time. And now, since we're sitting here, Captain Kraken and the Goblin Queen are actually my younger siblings. And so now they're on our team with us, and it's super cool because like Kat was a baby when I first started going to cons. Like an infant when I first started going to cons. It's really cool to have them here with us. This panel is mostly just me telling stories. Normally this is a nighttime panel and I do this intoxicated. So this is my first time doing it sober. We'll see how this goes. We're just gonna talk about some stuff. If you guys have questions or things to add as you go along, like raise your hand, let me know. I do have, if you guys would be interested in looking at them, some really old convention guides. This is SakuraCon 2000. We're gonna talk a lot about SakuraCon. I have AX and Fanime 2003. And this one, be careful when you're looking at it, actually still has the Animerica mail-away subscription cards, which I think is pretty cool. But it's fun to look at to kind of see how different things were back then. I've got a bunch of pictures I'm going to show as well. Just be gentle with these. I don't think any of these are autographed. I think I kept the autographed ones at home this year. So, I used to get those at cons. I don't do that anymore. That's where you would get all your autographs.
And that's our stage ninja.
Yes, this is our professional stage ninja, Zach.
Award-winning.
Award-winning, yes.
Award-winning stage ninja.
Why is your books floating around?
If you would just pass them around, if you guys want to look at them, they're there to see. Just pass them about and enjoy them if you like. So, I'm going to tell you guys a story.
Which story was that?
It was 1998. Dawson's Creek was the thing, if you remember. Let me ask real quick, how many people here are over the age of 18? Okay, so everybody's over 18. Who here is over the age of 30? Okay, there's just a small amount of you that were actually there. Go us. We have the con grandparents.
That's the year Nick was born. Junior year in high school.
Nick was born
Yeah.
here.
That is when I became alive.
So, it was the year Nick was born. Dawson's Creek was really hot. Some of the hot titles of the year are Half-Life, Ocarina of Time, and Cowboy Bebop just came out fresh from Japan. Spice Girls were still a huge thing. You remember, colors of the world, spice up your life. This was the life we lived back then. And of course there was that going on.
It's still going on.
The president gave us a turn cigar.
The Clinton mini.
I did not inhale, I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
It's still going on.
That was going on. Lane was real big that year. And I have a funny story about Lane, because my local video store back then used to rent tapes for $3 for 2 days. And Lane came out and I picked it up and I went, wow, the girl on the cover is so cute. And I took it home and I watched it. Boy, I was in for a surprise. But it was a good series. It was Seattle. It was 1998 in Seattle. The cherry blossoms were blooming, the days were beautiful, and it was my very first anime convention. This is me in 1998, and if you look really, really close, not at the girls, but at the TV. Got some Final Fantasy VII going over there. I'm not sure what we're playing. It was either Final Fantasy VII, Vandal Hearts, or Tic Tacs.
It looks like 7.
7 Overworld is probably what it was. And just gotten into gaming. Little old me. So if you ever wonder that puberty is strong is strong. Because that's what I looked like before. And it was my very first anime convention. This was me walking in the door of my very first anime convention. And a Tate Wakikuno came running across the convention going, "Utana, utana, utana!" and jumped on my back. And that was just walking in the door. My very first glomp, before the word glomp was even invented, by the way. The word weeaboo was not invented. Elise Guerin? No. We're Devil Hunter Yoko. The girl to my right is Fam from Ruin Explorers. The Anthe, and then behind her is a Jessie from Team Rocket. And if you notice, not a wig among us. Not one. Not one. This is this year. 1998? Oh, wrong way. 1998, 2016. So not only have I come a long way as a cosplayer, but cons as a whole have come a long way as a cosplayer, or as in cosplay, and the whole scene in general. It was a very different place back then. One of my favorite things to tell people is that SakuraCon, which everyone's familiar with now, right? SakuraCon takes place in Seattle, Washington. The first 2 years, it was called BakaCon. No, it was 1998, 1999, it was called BakaCon. And they changed it in 2000 because the insurance companies found out what the word baka meant. Because as nerds, that was like the nerdiest, like everybody would say that word all the time. Like that was baka and oro. Like, if you remember Kenshin, maybe you'd say oro at the end of everything. And the occasional nanoda, because Fushigi Yugi was hot back then. And Chichiri in the dub would say nanoda at the end of all of sentences. It was pretty funny. Back then, all minors had to be escorted by an adult at all times. Children could not walk around by themselves. If you were under the age of 18, your parent had to be, your parent, not your friend's parents, your parent. Every child had to be accompanied by their adult at all times. And at 10 p.m., all of the minors had to be in their rooms. Now, I was a minor back then, so I can't tell you too much about what went on at night because I wasn't there. But it was a glorious age. Oh, if we could only bring those days back. Can you imagine walking around at 3 in the morning at the con and not having to worry about underage girls? Those were the days. Those were the days. In fact, it's my little brother's first con, and I told him, I was like, you card her? Whoever she is, you better card her. Because times have changed, man. Times have changed. I went to IkiCon 1. Was anybody at IkiCon 1 10 years ago? Yeah, IkiCon 1, and this was like a huge contrast to me, coming up in the community on the West Coast, where all the minors had to be put away by 10 o'clock. We found a group of kids that had been dropped off by their parents with a case of Red Bull and Jaeger. And me and my friends, being over 21, decided we needed to save the children from their liquor. I can't even smell a Red Bull anymore without getting sick.
Is that what that happened?
Yeah, that was IkiCon 1, VomitCon. That was VomitCon, that was the year.
That's why I can't drink Red Bull.
I believe that Tommy puked in somebody's luggage bag.
Oh my God.
Someone puked in the trash can.
Was that Tommy?
Was it Tommy or was it Ian? It sounds more like Ian puking in Tommy's bag.
Yes.
That sounds
That's
real.
the story.
I spent the whole night curled up around the toilet. I puked where I'm supposed to puke.
That's a real success.
Be a bro, puke where you're supposed to puke. Let me think. So I usually do this drunk. So BakaCon 98 was my very first anime convention and my first cosplay competition. And we had come up, if you guys remember, do you remember the band Bewitched? Say you will, say you won't, say you'll do what I don't.
Why do I remember that?
So, because that was the year we did a dance performance for the cosplay show to that song. And we listened to it about 1,000 times.
So you traumatized me.
Yes. But so here's the thing, it's our first con, right? And we don't really know what we're supposed to do. So we didn't bring our CD with us. Now, and on top of that, there was no internet. Well, the internet existed, but it wasn't in a hotel. You couldn't just download a song. There was no Napster, there was no LiveWire, there was certainly no torrents. Streaming didn't exist.
It kind of did.
Not like
Not
that.
for the
Not that we could live stream on a stage or someone could download. There was no Wi-Fi in hotels back then. There was barely even internet in hotels unless they were big hotels. And this was a DoubleTree Inn, like 40-room hotel. There was probably 300 people at that convention, and that was a big con back then. It was huge to have 300 people at an anime con in 1998. It was very tiny. And you think this was the days, if you remember buying fan sub VHS tapes in the mail. And you had to send off your $8 cash in an envelope to some guy you've never met before because you found a flyer at a con with a list of tapes on it. And I bought, because I watched them there I think it was actually Bakugan 99 when I saw the Cardcaptor Sakura movie for the first time. And On Your Mark, the Studio Ghibli music video with Chang and Asuka, which if you have never seen On Your Mark, you are missing out. Go online and look it up there. Because of the Blu-ray remasters of all the Ghibli stuff, they have finally released a high-quality version of On Your Mark. Until about 3 years ago, the only rip of it on the internet was a VHS rip, which was horrible. If you've never seen On Your Mark, go watch it. I wish I had it right now. It's fantastic. It was just a different time, and we still make the joke, if they've never bought fans of VHS tapes, she's too young for you, bro. Too young if you've never bought VHS fan subs. I'm trying to think what I got going on here. So that year, this is that same year, Bakugan, we were gonna do a performance to a parody version of C'est La Vie, right? And we came up with this dance number, we're like kids, we're like 12 years old, you know? And we get into lineup, and my friend over on the far right, her name is Maya, we're practicing in the hallway at lineup. And she does a spin, and her boot catches the edge of the carpet. She rotated and ripped her knee apart. Her lower leg and her upper leg rotated separately from one another. Yeah, it was bad. She had to go to the hospital. So of course she and one of the other girls go to the hospital with the parents, and I'm like, no. And I was still like this at 12 years old, I'm like, no, this train is going. So after that happens, the girl on the far left decides she has stage fright, too bad to go on. By the way, we never got our music. We never got our music. So we've decided we're going to sing it while we're dancing to it. So now it's just two of us, me and the Anthe. And man, it was embarrassing. It was one of the most embarrassing cosplay moments of my life. We're trying to sing and dance, we're like 12 years old, looking silly. But at the same time, like the skits back then were like, that was pretty normal. Like it was all pretty much rubbish compared to today. Man, my wig is all over the place. Kat, do you have any bobby pins? Oh, you know what? Look at my purse. There's a black zipper bag, and in the black zipper bag is a purple batik bag. It has bobby pins in there.
That bag.
Oh, Way's got me. Thank you, Way.
Yay, Way!
You're the best. My wig is sliding all over the place.
Thank you.
No problem.
You're the best, Way.
It's part of the reason I still don't like wigs, because I'm old school.
But at least they look amazing.
So at this con, the guests were, think about this, Tiffany Grant, which was a big deal back then because that was like when Ava was hot. So if Tiffany Grant and Tristan McCavery, who did Gendo and did a lot of stuff back then. Because back in the day, there were only like 6 voice actors for everything. You had like Tristan McCavery, Sue Yulu, you had the girl I just said, Tiffany Grant, and then I can never remember his guy, the name of the guy that did Golden Boy. I have his autograph as well. He was at SakuraCon 2000, and that was fantastic. There was only like 6 of them, so they were always everywhere, and they're really, really nice. And I remember the first time I met Tiffany Grant, I had not yet watched Evangelion, but like I got into Evangelion because of my first con. And she was sitting at her little table in the hallway, and I'm a stupid 12-year-old, and I was just like, hey, how are you? And she's like, hello. You know, being all Tiffany Grant. And I was like, so who are you? Because I don't know, you know what I mean? She's like, I'm Tiffany Grant. Like she flipped her hair and everything. After seeing who she, like later in life when I discovered the characters that she does, or did, it makes perfect sense. She's always playing the snotty German. Because she's a snotty German. And I will never forget that, because then I went on to get into Evangelion, and I would always have that memory. I'm Tiffany Grant. You know? And then you meet Asuka, and it's like, I'm Asuka Langlish, are you? And I'm just like, oh my gosh, girl, you are way too into this. Way too into this. But at the time, you know, that's all there was. There was no such thing as cosplays back then. Like, it didn't exist. The cosplay judges were the guests of the convention. And I've even heard stories from further back where almost always the judges are the guests, the writers, the artists, the industry guests that know really nothing about cosplay. So that's a good change that we've seen through the years. But back then it was very different. This is another group from SakuraCon 1999. Again, just to show some indicative of what was going on back then. I don't even know what this girl in the red and purple is. If anybody else knows, I don't. But we have in the red and purple next to the Akane Tendo, in the off the shoulder. I don't know. They won an award. This is Bakuzoku. This was a real big West Coast group back in the day. This is when being known for cosplay was just starting to be a thing, this group was one of the first groups, and I met all of these guys in my early cons. They're West Coast people. Yeah, Tenji, Akane, I don't even know what's going on back there with the pink wings, but man, it was a time. And again, look at those wigs, man.
I want to say that might be Ghost Hunter in comedy.
Okay.
Oh, well, yeah, you're right.
Is it?
It is in comedy, yes.
Now we know. I did not know that one.
Yeah.
Or you know.
The more you know.
Right.
But again, only Party City wigs, like really, really bad Party City wigs. Because at this period of time, I think this was about when the website Amfigury came around. I don't know if any of you guys remember Amfigury, but it was one of the very first websites to sell colored wigs of quality for cosplayers. Not just cosplayers, but they also sold lots of colored makeups, which didn't really exist on the market at the time. Because back then, and you'll see in a lot of old Japanese cosplay, they never used wigs, they'd style their real hair. The style was so much more important than the color. If you could get your hair in the right style, that's really all that mattered. If it looked really good in the style, it didn't matter if the color was right. Because all we had was spray-in back then, and spray-in was as horrible then as it is now. Used it a couple of times. So my second con, this was my second convention, kind of stepped up this year. Sorry, these are scanned in from actual photographs. Back then, if you, we had to just go to the con with disposable cameras. There were no photo shoots, there was no video from the cosplay show. You were lucky if anybody got their pictures online because they had to be developed and then scanned. And there was no Photoshop. So if your picture was bad, your picture was bad. I mean, I'm sure Photoshop existed, but I mean, like in the mainstream, people using their computers, we have Paint. You can't really airbrush a photo in Paint. And in fact, this one is actually spliced together. You can see where it was two photos. And I did that many years later when I finally got Photoshop. That's another group. Room cramming hasn't changed, but room cramming's pretty much the same. This was my room group for, I believe, Fanime 03. That was a night. That was a night. Yeah. I see this little gap between the bed and the wall to the right-hand side. That's where I slept with my Doremi plushie. Like, I just bought that Doremi plushie at that con, and I was so happy. I don't still have it. I unloaded a lot of my anime collectibles about 12 years ago from back then, and I really regret it because I had a really big Sailor Moon collection. I had the lockets and the wands and the dolls, and alarm clocks. I used to collect plushes, and I used to have all these big plushes. But I purged them when I got into Lolita, so I could buy Lolita stuff. Then I got out of Lolita and I sold all that. But that part is more or less the same. Let me see. Oh, this is a good story. So this is almost a PG-13 story, but since you can't see anything, it's not actually. So this is what was this con called? It was in Winnipeg, Canada. I believe it was called All-Con, but I can't remember. This was several years later. I actually got away with wearing a G-string to a convention. No tights. I have nothing on under that top. It's double stick taped to me, I'm not falling out. But this is how I used to look at cons, and this is how you could go to conventions. And it was okay. I walked down the street in that G-string. Nobody batted an eyelash, con staff didn't throw me out, no problems at all. None. And it was okay back then, it was different. It wasn't a family-friendly event necessarily, and like, a little leg isn't really, at least back then, nobody really worried about a little leg and a little side boob, you know? But again, not a wig among us, not one, that is my hair. I made that costume about 2 days. So that reminds me of, where is it? Crinkle My. Oh, Crinkle My. Does anybody know that, anybody remember Crinkle My from 4chan?
You got lucky.
No, you know who I am. It's finally happened. Once upon a time, when 4chan was new and the CGL was in its infancy, they used to have these cosplay threads of really bad costumes.
The salt mines.
The salt mines. And one of them that showed up very often was the first costume I ever made. On my own. And I wore it to AX03. This was the first time I did my anyway. And as you can see, it's made of really, really bad costume satin. And that thong was very horrible. But if anything, this should give you proof that, man, you can start at the bottom and make your way to the top. Because I don't know if y'all saw the cosplay show yesterday, but we did pretty good. This is back when, like, the Street Fighter vs. Capcom photo shoot meetup was like the biggest meetup of the whole weekend. Like, SNK was so hot. CVS2 was so hot. These were the biggest photo shoots of the weekend, was the Capcom vs. SNK photo shoots. And nowadays, if you see one SNK cosplayer all weekend, it's like, oh.
I did work Friday.
Yes, you did.
And so did Tyler.
Yeah, I want to bring this pink vibe back. I want to redeem myself. But even looking in the background, like, look at the other cosplayers. Like, look at the. You can see this guy's hair sticking out. This is supposed to be a bald cap, but I don't know what's going on here. It's like a store-bought Santa beard going on. This, yeah, this scraggly tightness in the background. Like, it was crazy back then. This is Anime Expo 03. I'm 17 years old in that picture, so don't get too excited. This same year, we got a beautiful virtual on cosplay, which is probably one of the most elaborate costumes I had seen back then. Armor building was very rare, especially out of lightweight materials. Most people just use cardboard. We hadn't even quite figured out craft foam yet. I had, because I grew up with like crafting as a child with my mom, but not that far, not with craft foam that far. We didn't know what any of that stuff was. The fact that she's got lights was like everybody was losing their mind. And it's virtual on, so I mean, dang it. And it was also the year that Man-Faye debuted. I actually took this photo of Man-Faye. That was the beginning of Man-Faye.
Hey, where's your dance bell?
He doesn't have a dance spell. His magical girl wand and Lockett was all out.
Yeah, he needs to hide his magical girl one.
Stash that.
We did.
Stash that corona.
Yeah, and as you can see, he's walking around the convention with a beer in his hand, which you also can't do anymore. At Acon you can? I haven't been to Acon in years. I'm gonna go this year though. With a beer. Nice. Nice. Yeah. I mean, he was a sweet guy, and it blew my mind because that was like one of the first like cosplay almost meme things that got popular. It was like, Man-Faye, oh my god, Man-Faye. There he is in all his glory when he first got started. So this was the Naruto meetup at Anime Expo 2003. It's so sad. It's so sad.
So cringy.
Yeah, it wasn't even out in America yet. The manga hadn't even been released in America
Actually,
yet.
that was the original one, not the original.
No, I know.
Yeah.
None of it was even out in America yet. Because the manga didn't hit American shelves until at least a year and a half later, because I was in the military when it came out.
So, yeah. Basically, these guys fans watching it.
Yeah, these guys were probably getting tapes, VHS fans of tapes, because downloading an episode of anything back then was...
A CD with 2 episodes.
I remember watching when I finally was able to download the End of Evangelion movie from Napster. It was a real player, RIP. The screen was about this big. That was as big as I could make it. For years during that scene, there's children in the room so I can't go into it. During that scene, I thought Shinji was crying for 5 years. I thought he was sobbing and looking down at the tears on his hands because it was such a pixelated video. So when it finally came out on DVD and I was able to buy it and I watched it at home, I was just like, oh my god, all these years. All those tears. All those tears, yeah.
It wasn't supposed to be like this. Not tears.
But that's just how it was. I remember my boyfriend was like really into computers and stuff. And you remember how it was back then, he was really into computers. And he would get on IRC and download anime episodes and send me spindles of CDs with like 10 episodes on each. And I was like the hottest commodity at school because I had a CD burner and every episode of Inuyasha in 2002. I had every episode of Fushigi Yugi. I had all of Super Archigon. Like so many, like my friends, I would sell ripped fan sub CDs at school because most people's parents wouldn't let them download and they didn't know how. So I would sell them for $5 a piece at school.
Work that hustle.
So this is 2003. That's the Naruto meetup 2 years later at AX. So that's just 2003 to 2005. Like, we went from 20 people to like 100. And as you can see now, wigs are starting to appear. Look how many wigs there are.
And bears.
And bears. No store-bought shoes. Look at everybody's Naruto shoes. They got socks on over their sandals with toes cut off. That's what everybody did back then. That's all you could do. There was no such thing as a China bought costume back then either. If you wanted to commission a costume, you had to commission it from somebody like me, because I used to do costume commissions back then. And it was really weird because the internet was still young. Nobody really knew what we were doing, selling costumes on the internet. We had like websites on Angel Fire and GeoCities, Homestead.com. That was how you promoted yourself. People barely, like, we were just starting to figure out like cosplay team names. You know what I mean? Like, it was a strange and unusual time. This is back to 2003. This Final Fantasy X had just come out. This was like the hottest group all weekend. I believe there were one group of people, one group of friends, because this was exceptionally high craftsmanship for the time. We're back out of that. We got a Guts in there, which makes me pretty happy. A Cell. I believe the guy on the left is from Bleach. I'm assuming that was when Bleach first came out in Japan, because again, this is 03. And who is the guy in the front with the sword? Nobody ever knows.
Like Hunter something.
Because you guys remember the knockoff button-down men's shirts that were really popular in the early 2000s that had anime characters on them, usually Kenshin, Dragon Ball, and that dude. And you could get them at flea markets for like 20 bucks, and the colors were always weird. They were like silk. I had 3 of them with Vegeta on it. Oh my god.
Check it out.
They were so good. Oh, if you look really close. I don't know how many of you guys actually heard or remember the name Eurobeat King. Al, the photographer, who was like the cosplay photographer back in the day on the West Coast. He and I are still buddies. We've been buddies forever. But if you look really close, this was the year he debuted the Initial D car. Because he used to do Initial D, and he actually, in further years, had a whole groups with the cardboard cars. But that was the first year he made that car, and he was so excited about it. I think this was also the year the Cosmos bike that Lionel built. Lionel Boogie was the other big cosplay photographer back then. I don't know how that picture of me now in here.
I played about that before.
Yeah. So, if any of you remember, no one uses it anymore, cosplay.com. This was the AX 2003 cosplay.com meetup. And these are some of the early days, before people were cost famous, these were some of the first well-known cosplayers. This woman right here in the Delando costume, still one of my idols. I don't remember all their names. And her daughter, very popular back then. Look at all these costumes. Got a Rabbit and Rose, that was a staple back in the day. Digi-Chara. Yuna, got the whole Final Fantasy X group here. Sesshomaru. More Inuyasha. Haku, that had just come out. There's my little group right there on the floor. Vanessa, Kyo, and Mai. These two here in the Final Fantasy costumes, again, I don't remember their names, that was a long time ago. They were exceedingly popular back then.
Is that Aria?
That is an Alucard.
No, the girl that's the right? That girl. No, not the girl sitting on the ground.
That's Celeste's opera gown.
This one, yeah, this is Celeste's opera gown. This is Loki. Locke, sorry. And then Castlevania, I believe, right?
Yeah,
the Knights.
Alucard and Maria.
Yeah, and then another Alucard.
Alucard.
Another Kyo, and see here's more King of Fighters over here. These are also my friends, or were my friends, however you want to put it. Somewhere, Eris is in here. Look at all the King of Fighters, man. There's a Ceres. Blue Ceres, yeah, because Hellsing Ultimate didn't come out until many years later. Like, it just goes on and on. This was like a huge deal back then. This girl here that was the Belle Dandy She was the wife of the admin from Cosplay.com, who was just called admin back then. So in my opinion, she was probably one of the first people to be cos famous because everybody knew who she was. She does fantastic Eris costume all the time with her real hair. And she actually had her mother cosplay as Eris's mother, which was really, really cool to see. It was really fantastic. Oh, there's some Magna Carta hiding back there. Magna Carta, if anybody even remembers what Magna Carta is. It's a Korean MMORPG that had some of the most intricate costumes of the time to be released. Everybody wanted to do Magna Carta. Yeah, I want to go back and do it for fun anyways. That is another very, very small group. Now this picture I didn't take. This picture I just found. I found it to be rather exceptionally entertaining. Especially when you start to look at the what's going on here exactly. There's a Gundam in there, a Yu, a Ryoga, an Akane, a Jigen, a Lupon, a Bison. Like, there's a Tuxedo Massacre. In fact, there's 2 Ryogas, look at that. And Grave of the Fireflies, because that's...
I think that was one of the first animes I ever watched was Grave of the Fireflies when I was about 10.
And a school.
Maybe younger than that.
Yeah, because it's the first anime DVD I ever got was Grave of the Fireflies.
We still have that DVD. That's the one we still watch. And I cried and felt emotions I didn't know I had.
I think in Japan they showed that movie before My Name is Totoro as like a double feature.
That's evil.
That's so evil.
Unusual.
Oh wait, can you like go back real quick?
Yeah.
What's going on the right there?
I have no idea. I believe that is some kind of Japanese demon spirit.
Could be a real one.
Yeah. Again, I was not present for this photo. That is clearly a vinyl piece. That's clearly not someone's body. But that was also okay back then. And I don't know if you guys remember, but there used to be an anime that was like the world's only naked superhero. And they had on this headpiece that kind of looked like a jester hat. It wasn't really a hentai, because it wasn't pornography, but she was naked. And we would actually have people cosplay as that. Now, they wouldn't be naked, they'd wear like a flesh tone bodysuit and a headpiece, and that was it. Like, but I'm not even sure you could get away with that anymore. They were fully covered. But when you go back in time to like the 70s and 80s, there's, especially in the 70s, there's a lot of bare-chested cosplay, like all out. No coverage, but it was the 70s, it was a different time and place. I didn't go to those cons, so I can't talk about this. No. This is another really old cosplay group. Again, not a wig among us, not one.
How many times have you cosplayed Utena?
That's the one Mom made that I updated.
Right.
I've done it 4 times, 4 different costumes. So.
Does that mean I get 4 different versions of Anthony?
No.
You don't want to make that skirt again?
Not even.
I don't want to make that skirt again.
I need to want more pictures. I had physical photos last time.
I need to see what I have at the house, because I know we have a ton of pictures at the house that I've looked through, and lots of very cringy pictures of you at the house.
I love
I have many cringy pictures of you.
Boxes and boxes of pictures.
Boxes and boxes. Because this is usually a late night panel, I'm a little stifled because there's a couple stories I'd like to tell that I can't tell. So hopefully I'll do this panel again, and if you ever see it running at night, I promise there's going to be a bunch of stories in there that we're not here today. Because, yeah.
Isn't it supposed to be an 18 plus panel?
No, I asked optional, and they said no. So, well, they scheduled it now. Right. But a lot of things have really, really changed through the years. Not only the conventions themselves, the size, the scope, the shape, the way that they're put together, but the way the attendants attend. Because they used to be very small events, it would be this really friendly thing where you could go up and you could just talk to anybody, and by the end of the con you knew everyone. We would all go out to eat together, like 100 of us. Like, people would just be like, come on everybody, we're gonna go eat! And like, the whole con would just congregate. And we would walk over to the food court at the mall, and everyone would just go eat at the food court at the mall. We'd all sit together, like in costumes. The time we were Sailor Moon, we actually went over to the mall, and we had little girls stopping us, like wanting to take pictures with Sailor Moon. And that was one of my first experiences with kids, like, oh my god, it's Sailor Moon! Like, It was really fantastic.
Yeah, the avatars going up there.
Yeah, it was an avatar yesterday.
This random person just showed up with their daughters, like, it's my daughter's birthday, and she loves Avatar. Can we take a picture? We're like, sure. It's really cute. So cute.
That's another just really old picture. That's AX03 again.
Those bangs.
I know those.
Those bangs.
I know those. Yeah. That was the second costume I ever made on my own. It's terrible. No wigs, that's my hair.
Don't admit that.
My hair was nice, you're hot.
One feels like ages ago.
Econ one was 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's still.
This is San Japan 9, but I've been to all of them except 2 or 3.
Yeah.
I think 2 I missed, because I was at 1 at the Tropicana. Was it gonna be, was anyone here for San Japan 1?
Excuse me, 1.5. 1.5.
Oh yeah, 1.5. You're correct there. That wasn't that long ago, but I do have a good story about that night. So Smile DK played the concert that night. I was right up in front. I was the one with the giant high heels in the front row. Sorry, everybody. I was not gonna miss that for the world. I'm like, I'm wearing giant platforms so I can see them no matter what, and I got both the buttons. The 2 singers had little buttons with their faces on them that they would give out during the concert, and I managed to get them both. I was super happy. Because I'm an old DDR kid. I'm an arcade junkie from about 1999 forward. I played CVS2 competitively, and a lot of DDR and Pump It Up. First Mix and then Extreme was my favorite. I played a lot of DDR Extreme. MVC2, yeah, and Pump It Up. Where was I going with this?
Oh, you stopped off the Smile DK.
Oh, San Japan 1. So San Japan 1, and I still don't know how we got there. Maybe someday someone will remember, but I highly doubt that anyone will remember how we got there. There were like 200 people on the roof of the hotel. I don't know how we got there.
That sounds like a story. No one will remember why you got there.
No, I don't think we were very intoxicated that night. We were all adults. We were all over 21. Don't break the law, kids. We got on the roof at San Japan 1.5 and we're partying on the roof, and I don't remember a lot about that night, but it was a good night. It was a good night. I just remember being up there and looking over the skyline. It was at the Tropicana, down at the one end of the Riverwalk somewhere. I don't know. It's not far from here, but I have no idea where it is. But that con was just interesting. It was a horrible location, which is why they never ever went back again. Oh man. Oh, other stories about that con that I can't tell. Oh, that was a good con. That was a good con.
I can hear about these stories that you would normally tell.
Thank you. Oh man, you on the back. Has anybody else noticed like this hardcore comeback of like really classic anime recently?
Uten is coming back a lot.
Yeah, like last year I cosplayed Yu Yu and nobody knew who we were, and this year I've seen like 3 amazing Yu Yu groups. Like nobody knew what Utena was for some reason until like 2 years ago. It started to make this huge comeback, and I'm not really sure why. I mean, it's a great series. It's gonna be blowing my mind, the things that are making comebacks and the things that aren't.
I guess that giant 90s nostalgia wave is going with anime.
It's coming with us. I slightly blame Steven Universe, which I'm a fan of, but Steven Universe, if you don't watch it, has an exceptional amount of old anime references, including direct shots from Utena, from Evangelion, from a lot of other old animes. Like Pearl pretty much is Utena at a lot of points. A lot of the fight scenes are, I mean, especially with the sword, think about Pearl's sword when she's doing the practicing. It's Utena's sword. It is the, you know, the sword of Dios. Yeah, like if you look at it. I think that has a lot to do with it too, and that we're old, the people who watch those things are now old enough to have the money to buy what we want. Which is
old enough to have their kids to show their kids what the things they grew up on.
Yeah. I mean, that's in fact, here's a really, really, really old cosplay picture. You may have seen this one on the internet before. This is from like the 70s. It's Queen Emeraldus, Star Blazers, that whole, what's his name? No, the artist.
Blake Mossmo.
Thank you. Yes.
That's Galaxy Express 39.
Yes. All his stories are in one universe, I believe. Because I know Battleship Yamato and Emeraldus and 39 all cross over. but not. Oh, though they have wigs, barely have wigs. Party Halloween wigs. But this is like, again, this is probably the late 70s or early 80s. I just found this picture, I thought it was fantastic. The quality of workmanship in this costume, you don't even see that all the time today. That was probably made by professionals, but they're fantastic. What do we got? Still got 20 minutes left. What am I going to talk about, guys? What do you want to know about?
How did you get references? Like when you first started?
You had to go buy the tapes.
Yeah.
You couldn't bring reference art to the cosplay show. Sometimes you could find pictures online and print them out, because back then the biggest thing to do was make screen cap galleries. Because screen capping had to do with hooking your VCR up to some special equipment that then attached the VCR to your computer. Because of course you can't put a VHS tape in your computer.
I had one of those. It hooked up to the parallel port.
Is that how it works?
The one I had did.
You should have seen how they used to make AMVs.
Oh, VCRs.
It was tape to tape, and you have to cue this one up, and then start this one at the same time, and you had to edit like that to make your AMV. So whenever they were able to slow it down or speed it up to make the mouths move or to make explosions happen on point, it was literally physically reaching over and slowing the tape down or speeding the tape up. There were no special effects. I wish I had it. My boyfriend way back in the day made this fantastic Robotech AMV where he had gotten the explosions to go off on beat. And it was the most fantastic thing I've ever seen. And he only had one VHS copy, and because we lived in Hawaii, it molded. Because that can happen to VHS tapes. I had a friend bring an entire box set of Ranma. Box sets were like this big back then. $400, it's like 12 tapes. He left them in his car during an anime convention and it worked. Completely useless. There were only like 3 episodes on a tape for $25. 25 if you're lucky, usually $30 for a tape at Suncoast. And you had this huge collection of VHS tapes. Oh.
And subs were more expensive too.
Oh yeah, subs were more expensive. And you only got sub or dub, not both.
So it's a anime, right? So familiar with Evangelion Redeath then?
Yes! Yes! I remember when that came out. I haven't watched Redeath in years. But be careful because there's kids in the room. But if you've never seen Evangelion Redeath, go watch it. I can't tell you about it.
Noel's a cyborg or something.
You want to talk about your Ranma fanfic that I found on a floppy disk?
I still haven't been able to open it.
Did I give it to you?
Yeah. Okay. She was cleaning the house and she found a old square floppy disk that says Ranma fan fiction on it.
It has Lindsay's stuff scratched out of it, which is our other sister.
Our other sister. I had scratched out her name and it says Ranma fanfics. If you go on fanfiction.net, my account still exists and I've never touched it because it's like a time capsule. My profile says, today's my 18th birthday. Unfortunately, half my pics are gone because way back in the day, fanfiction.net allowed you to post M-rated stories. And then about 2004, they decided to pull all the M-rated stories down without telling anybody. And those were the only copies that existed of those fanfics. No, they're horrible because I wrote them when I was 16. What the heck did I know about anything? But I wrote a lot of Dragon Ball Yaoi back then.
Basically Tumblr now.
Yeah, basically Tumblr now. A lot of Dragon Ball Yaoi. I'm not proud of it, but it's there.
So, what changes in cons over the year do you like, and what changes in cons over the year do you kind of wish had like never happened?
I really love that the community is larger, and I would say about 80% of the people that go to cons are like super cool, really outgoing, really friendly, and it's cool because and this is me personally as well. I don't think I ever would have got out of the basement if it wasn't for conventions. I never would have become social and got to interact with people, and cosplay, especially starting as a 12-year-old, I was a really awkward tomboy. I had big teeth, I didn't know how to dress, I didn't know how to be pretty, I felt like a slug most of the days. I felt like a potato. And cosplaying through the years has really helped me embrace who I am and really open up and explore, because as I'm sure a lot of cosplayers know, when you pick a costume, you usually pick a costume because that character has some emotional value to you. There's something about that character that you wish you had or could be like. And so through the years, especially if you go look through my old cosplays, you see a lot of strong characters. I do Sarah's Victoria, I do my Shira Nui, I did Meryl from Chrono Trigger. I like to do strong women, and I think doing that, especially at the tender age of 12, really helped me embrace who I am. And I know a lot of people aren't into the fact that I used to do a lot of skimpy costumes, but for me, I enjoyed it, and it gave me a lot of confidence for me. Now, I'm not saying everyone should run out and do what made me feel good, because what empowers one person doesn't necessarily empower another person. But for me, it was very, very empowering to be like, no, this is me and this is my body and I love it. I was a very late bloomer, so I used to get teased really bad about being flat-chested. I will never forget in 7th grade, the boy I had a crush on gave me a Valentine's card and made me read it in front of the whole class. And the front said, "Roses are red, violets are black." And I opened it. "Why is your chest as flat as my back?" I was a late bloomer. So ever since then, I felt like a tomboy, and I would hide in my clothes, and I would pull just my hair back in a ponytail, and I did nothing. And as I got into cosplay, and I hit puberty, and I really started like becoming a woman, it gave me an outlet to try different things with clothes and to figure out what made me comfortable and what made me feel good, which, you know, at 18 years old was like half naked. But, you know, that was what I was into. Not everybody's into that. And that was really great for me. And now, I don't do a lot of skimpy costumes anymore, but like I'm so confident in my cosplay. I feel like, this is gonna sound like really narcissistic, but I feel like I'm a beautiful woman. And I think a lot of that came from cosplay and the confidence that I got from dressing up and putting on the costumes and dressing up as these women I admired. Because even though I was nervous, I could put on their strength. They wouldn't be nervous, therefore I'm not gonna be nervous. And I would just go. And it's given me a lot with life and confidence, walking on the street, getting dressed in the morning, talking to people, being up in front of people, doing panels. Like, I don't think I ever would be the person I am today if it wasn't for cosplay and everything I've learned from it and the people I met along the way. It's just been really fantastic. But with con scene today, I really wish that they would reinstate better rules for children, especially teenagers. There are way too many teenagers getting drunk, acting the fool. I saw a girl sitting outside last night that couldn't be older, 15 years old, puking her guts out on the staircase at 4 a.m. because she'd been drinking. I understand the con itself can only do so much. We're all free human beings. And I don't blame the conventions at all, because now they're so big. I mean, 300 people is easy to control. When you have 20,000 people, it's almost impossible. But we're talking about, this is an anime convention, and we know that a lot of anime is very adult. And that was part of the reason they wanted the adults to be with their children, so that they could, when they saw things that they didn't understand, it could be explained to them. Especially when you walk through the artist alley and you see all these husbando pillows where they're half naked. And I love them, I love them. I'm married and I want one. Like, and I'm mad because the guys aren't ever naked. Like, but the fact of the matter is, a young child probably should have that explained to them is all. And they should be with their parents, and their parents should have control over what they're seeing and buying and doing. Because there's a lot of kids who come to cons and just act the fool, making messes, running around, drinking too much, throwing up, just being dumb kids. And the parents are forcing all of us to deal with it. And I'm the type of woman that will never have children because I don't like children. I like other people's kids just fine, but parties, not pregnancies. I don't want to deal with your kid's crap. That's not what I paid $75 to come here to do.
You should get somebody in trouble with their parents because of what they were
Oh my God! That was a con about 8 years ago. We're in the artist alley, right? And I look over and there's this teenage girl. She's definitely underage because she's with her little brother and her parents who are like straight-laced, like white, church-going, Lakeline people. She is wearing a Bible Black costume. And I'm standing in the pre-reg line, listening to everybody in the pre-reg line talking about what they'd like to do to her. And I walk over to the girl's parents and I'm like, do you know what anime your daughter's dressed up from? And they're like, no, she said it was just some schoolgirl costume, isn't it cute? Yes. And I informed the mother what that anime was from, what exactly it was, and what all the boys over there were saying about her underage daughter. And this is why parents need to be involved with their children's hobbies. That mom grabbed that girl by the ear and drug her out. This is why parents need to be involved in what their children are watching, because that girl pulled a fast one on her parents and had them pay for her to buy a porno costume. And she was underage. If you're over 18, you cosplay as whatever you want. I've always wanted to do Mika Mito from the Blue Girl, so like, do your thing, girl. But as a child, the kids especially don't understand that it's not them that's gonna get in trouble. It's the adults that get in trouble, especially with the underage girls and boys that will tell you that they're 18 or that they're 21. They don't care because they're not the ones that are gonna get in trouble if they get busted. It's the adults that are gonna get busted. And this is why I think that we need to reinstate parental guidance at all time at conventions, because there's just too much going on here that's not, I mean, it is a family-friendly event, but there's a lot of little things that just kids don't need to see and be around, or at least have it explained to them. Like, when my parents first found me looking at yaoi dojins online, I was about 15 years old. My mom's really liberal and cool with it. But when she saw it, she sat down next to me and she said, go ahead and keep going. And I was looking through the hentai. But what she did was she pointed out words to me. And she said, you see that word? Don't click on that word. Or I had questions and I was like, Mom, I don't understand what's going on in this picture. I'm 15 years old. And she just explained it to me because that's what my mother chose to do. Not every parent is like that, but the parents should be involved and be able to have that control to decide how much they want their children to know and to see. Hold on over there, Wayne had a question.
This may be a little controversial, but...
There's kids in the room, so be careful.
Raves.
Raves?
Yeah, that's how you...
Oh, it's not that controversial. Some of my rave stories I can't tell. I think you heard them in Anime Overload. But raves back in the day were much smaller, and the biggest difference was that they played anime music. It was a lot of Eurobeat, a lot of Initial D. It was pretty much the same. I mean, that's where I learned to dance, was at con raves. Bloodbending, yeah. When I dance in the rave or at a bar, I like to pretend I'm bloodbending everyone while they're dancing. I'm bloodbend not everyone on the dance floor, and I feel like we're all dancing together. The raves they were smaller back then, but more or less the same. I like to think that the music was better because there was a lot of passion. There was no money involved. There was no fame involved. There was no pride involved to being a DJ. These guys would just come up with anime sets. There was no mixing of the songs either. They would just play.
With DJ?
Yeah, they would just play anime songs all night. And we would just dance and dance and dance and dance all night long. Like, they weren't as big, they weren't as crazy. There wasn't puking going on the floor. There wasn't people laying all over the place. Like, it was really, really chill. It's just, that part's more or less the same. But somebody over here had something.
Oh yeah. So instead of just having this whole parental guidance thing, what do you think about just having the con be 18 plus?
UshiCon in February is 18 plus. UshiCon. We have pub trivia, and the club or the con gives free beer. Free beer from the convention. It's 18 plus all weekend. I don't even think we have a hentai fest, so it's not even that kind of con.
There might be one in a room somewhere.
Yeah, somebody might be having one. And there's room parties. Because another thing we used to be able to do back in the day, was especially like in the Midwest. I went to MarsCon 2009. What they do on the first floor of the hotel is all the private hotel rooms turn into party rooms. And they would actually call ahead, and you could call ahead and have all the furniture removed from the hotel room. And people would make these themed rooms that were set up with lights and drinks and decorations. And there would be a Star Wars room and a Star Trek room and a Firefly room and a Farscape room and everything. There's like the LARPers over here and the anime nerds over here, and they were all in the same hallway in a big round thing, and the walls would be plastered with paper flyers. Room party in this room, this kind of party. Room party in this room, this kind of party. We have Jello shots, we have a DDR machine, we have this, we have that. And he would just walk in circles all night and just partying with people. I remember one lady, she's like a little old lady, she set up like a tea parlor with like rocking chairs and doilies and like, so you could come in and like have a break from drinking and have like some tea and like relax for a few minutes and then go back out again and just like woo all night long. I was somewhere, I have pictures of that too. That was in my physical pictures because there was a big sign in the hallway that said parties this way with an arrow.
Oh yeah.
And like you could get as loud as you wanted to as long as it was on the first floor.
We all love a good cringe story. One of the cringiest things that's ever happened to you at con.
Cringiest things that ever happened to me. Okay, so AX 2003, going back there. Back then, FanimeCon and AX were a week apart. And everybody would go to Fanime as a warm-up to get their costumes ready for AX. So at Fanime, I met this guy, and in fact, he's in this picture. So it's the guy with the Volcom shirt on. I had met him, and he decided to catch some feels. Now, the next weekend at AX, I was meeting my internet boyfriend for the first time at AX. We were going to AX together. I just graduated high school. He was from Mexico. I was from Hawaii. We were going to meet up, and he's in the other picture as well. So this guy caught feelings for me at Fanime, and I was not into it. I mean, that's me with my Doremi, and I look like a dork. And I think I still had braces at the time, even. And so at AX, after the King of Fighters and the Cosplay.com photo shoot, me and my boyfriend went up to the room, and we got a pizza, and we're just chilling and eating pizza. And he calls me, and he was like, "Where are you at?" I was like, "Oh, I'm upstairs having pizza. I'm trying to be nice. Just because he's caught feelings for me doesn't mean I can't be nice to him. You know what I mean? I already told him like, no, I'm meeting my boyfriend, blah blah blah." So he comes up to our room to have some pizza, and I go into the bathroom for a minute, and I'm not entirely sure what transposed while I was in the bathroom. What I do know is there were some photos taken of me the previous weekend at Fanime while I was quite intoxicated, which I still to this day have never seen. And he was showing these pictures to my boyfriend. I came out of the bathroom, and so my boyfriend from Mexico, Victor, 4 minutes, I'll be really quick, was a competitive martial artist. As I come out of the bathroom, this guy in the Volcom shirt, all I hear him say is, "Well, you know what? I'm just going to take her." And he turns around and he throws me over his shoulder. And I'm like, I don't even really know what's happening. I weigh about 105 pounds, you know what I mean? Like, I'm tiny. He picks me up, and as he turns around to leave the room, he bangs my ankles against the dresser, and I scream, and he drops me. And I'm laying on the floor, and I don't really know what's happening. I just remember the silhouette of Victor coming over the top of him like this, just wailing on him. And I scrambled back in the bathroom and closed the door. Like, I closed the door, and all I could hear was the other guy just yelling and like, "No, I'm gonna take her! Wham! I'm gonna take her! Wham!" No matter how many times Victor punched this guy, he just was like, "No, I'm taking your girlfriend." By the way, you can't steal a human being because of one goal. Right? You can't steal a human being unless you're using
Not how it works. It's not like, "Oh, well, got me out of the room, so."
And so I don't really know what happened because eventually he left the room. But my boyfriend's knuckles were bleeding, busted open. There was blood on the floor and a broken tooth. I never saw that guy again. But he got whooped. So, friendly reminder, try not to make drama at cons between couples. And yeah, you can't steal a person. unless you're human trafficking, and then that's a crime, so.
Don't do that either.
Yeah, don't do that either. You cannot steal a person. But that's probably one of the worst things that ever happened at a con. If you ever want to kind of like dip into the old con drama, there's actually a manga called DramaCon. And it's really good actually because that's exactly what anime cons were like back then. Like, so just like that. I'm getting the 2-minute warning, so I'm going to have to wrap it up, unfortunately. Thank you guys for coming. I hope to do this panel again more in the future, so if you want to come by, I'm sure some of it will be different, some of it will be the same. But thank you so much. If you guys want to check us out on Facebook, we are Colony Drop Cosplay. Hit us up, let us know if you got any embarrassing old pictures or stories to tell in the future. You let me know, because normally I have other people on this panel, so.
So do you ever know a guy named Captain